can't we use sprints instead of releases? Because we can always name our sprints with our versions. This is interesting because you might want to do something similar, or maybe in case you are always releasing after every sprint, then maybe this question came to your mind. So let me try to help. So whenever we talk about sprints in Jira software based projects, sprints are for planning, but releases are for milestones. Releases are for a specific version of your product or project, or maybe your code repository. So sprint is an iteration. Sprint is a very key concept in agile, especially in case if you're following Scrum methodology, where the whole idea is that you get together as a team where you of course have people from different skill sets, and you agree on what you need to deliver in the next 2 weeks, basically your iteration or iterations, because you will have multiple iterations and you will have multiple of course sprints, time boxed duration, usually 2 weeks or 3 weeks. And when you commit something to deliver as a team, of course before you commit something you also try to estimate the work. When you have one of your requirement, it could be an epic in Jira, you break down those epics or that particular epic into various stories. And the whole idea behind a story is that a story should be delivered in one sprint. It should be small enough. So break down your requirements accordingly. Now, when you have your stories, you will of course have some priorities. You will of course have some estimation. Your estimation could be story point. Your estimation could be number of hours. But when you commit on something, I mean, commitment is very important here, because when you commit on something, then in the beginning, when you start your project, you may not be able to basically understand your team's capacity, and that is also known as velocity of your team. And whenever you are working on your stories, whenever you are working on your items that you want to deliver, that you committed to deliver, you can of course track the progress using your standard burn down charts, which you already have in your Jira software project. Sprints will have dates. So when you create a sprint, you will have some planned dates and planned end date, but you can also report, not many people know this, but you can also report based on the actual date when you complete a sprint. So there is something called as a sprint completion or not completion, and you can actually report on these things to understand your team's performance, and it will help you in your future planning. So planning is very important here when we talk about sprints. But if we talk about a release, now release, as I mentioned before, they're nothing but milestones in Jira. And when we talk about a milestone, basically it is something that will happen on a specific date. And when we talk about a software development project, you can also treat your releases as your code versions, because when you write some code, when people are collaborating together on a particular version of a code or a particular version of your product, then that information, that versioning is important, because when people, let us say, raise bugs or they report problems, they will report it on a specific version. And in Jira, of course, you have two fields. You have affected version and you also have fixed version. So when you report something which is, let us say, a bug, when people report these bugs, they report it on a specific version of your project, and they will update a field or they will fill in a field called affected version. Now, when you fix something, or when they say that, okay, when we are going to release the next version, we'll include these new features. So these are nothing but your milestones with a specific date, but at the same time, it is often used for the code that you're trying to deliver. You can also have your release-based reports. So there is a specific section within your Jira software project where you can look at your releases, what things you plan to deliver, what is the progress, and you can also report on the movement of issues from one release to another release. So you can always figure out by writing a JQL where you can ask Jira, can you please tell me all the issues that were part of this release, but they are not anymore. So you can report on releases as well. So should you be using sprints instead of releases? Well, they both provide different features. They both work fundamentally different in Jira software. If you are releasing something every 2 weeks, basically after every sprint, then you should use releases. and use the sprint for planning. So I hope I've given you some ideas, some thoughts, some information in this video, and you found this video useful. Thank you very much.